first off, because my setup is a little more complicated, you can watch me do some stuff here. So that looks good. And we're going to restart this. Alright. We ignore all those 1,000 errors, it'll be fine. Cool. Do this. Alright. Quick check before I start. Can we hear something? Let me refresh. Cool. Is there supposed to be audio? Like on the cable? Alright, cool. Alright, cool. So it's working. Alright, so we are going to do something a bit different. And I know it's the last talk of 2 amazing days at Laracon India. And I know you're all exhausted from all of the great talks you had, from all the amazing speakers, and from everyone you talked to in the audience. So I want you all to have the energy. I know I saw it yesterday when I showed you my abysmal dance moves. So please, everybody, stand up real quick. I want to do the V-shot. Now I got the chance, so I want to do something. Okay, what are we going to do? So, what I want to do is, we're all going to clap, but I'm going to split this in half. So, the right side, my right side, we're going to clap on 4, so. Okay, let's do that. Okay? So you're the bass drum, basically. Keep going. And you're all clapping on the 2nd and the 4th. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Cool. Are we not in sync? We'll sync up. Keep going. Okay? Okay, cool. That's it. Big round of applause for you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. So that's kind of what we're doing. So I just live coded you, I guess. My name is Marcel Pociot from Germany. I am working at Beyond Code, where we create software tools for developers, for people like myself, people like you in the audience. So I'm mostly busy working on Laravel Herd, Tinkerwell, and Expose. And if you want to follow me along in that journey, here's my social media stuff. So, what we're going to do is, we're making music with PHP, and before we get into some of the details on how this works under the hood, I want to show you a bit what we can do, alright? So, in here we have this sound function, and my slides are in a Laravel app. So this is a Vue.js application, it's interactive, I can click around, and when I press play, then the sound will be sent over to a PHP-based WebSocket server that then turns this into sound somehow. So what we can do is, we're going to recreate what you just clapped. So we are going to do this BD, 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 BD. BD stands for bass drum. So if we play this, okay, we got a nice bass drum. And now, yeah, feel free to clap along, I don't know. And then we're going to add a snare, just like you did, on every second thing. So this symbol there basically just means it's a pause. So we're going to pause, then we're going to add a snare. And when we play this, it sounds like this. I can barely hear it. So let me change the sample of this, because it also doesn't sound like a snare at all. Okay, we're getting there. And now we can add like a hi-hat, I guess, on top of that. So I would like to add a hi-hat. Maybe reduce that a bit. But the hi-hat should be repeated 16 times. Now, of course, I could go and say something like that, but we're not monsters, we're developers. So there's this little neat syntax. So I can say HH for hi-hat, and we want it to repeat 16 times. So it sounds like that. Yeah, pretty cool, right? Okay. And that's just 3 lines of code. So Why is this even a thing? Why should we do this? I don't know. It's fun, I guess. So the idea behind this, I was just scrolling through my Instagram or YouTube feed, whatever, and I saw this video from a streamer. She's called Switch Angel. If you find this interesting at all, definitely check her out. She's brilliant. And what she does is she basically streams on Twitch and creates like 1 hour long sessions with sound. And I saw this and my mind was blown. Like, I love music, I love writing music, creating music, and I love programming, and so it's the best of both worlds. What she uses is JavaScript. So my natural instinct tells me, can't we do this in PHP? Before we go on, one thing I learned, also if you want to look into this later on, it's not actually called live coding, it's called AlgoRave, which I think is a way cooler name for this. So we're going to call it AlgoRave from now on, or to have a more Indian appropriate name for that. All right? Cool. I'm glad that works. Thanks Vishal. All right. So there are two approaches out there in how we can make this work. So I saw that she streamed this. So there are solutions out there, and I looked at both of them to see how can we take inspiration from that and bring it to PHP. So the two existing solutions out there are called Strudel and Title Cycles. Strudel is written entirely in JavaScript, which means you can run it in your browser, and it uses the Web Audio API. This is pretty cool because you can just go to strudel.cc in your browser and try it out, and just play the sounds in your browser. But, well, it didn't really help me because it's all client-based. Like, everything is generated client-side, but I wanted it in PHP. So I looked at Title Cycles, and Title Cycles is written in Haskell. The way this works is it generates these so-called OSC messages. OSC stands for Open Sound Control. It's kind of like, if you know MIDI files back from the days, that's kind of MIDI 2.0. And then it sends it to a program that I have running on my computer where you saw these 1,000 errors, but it's fine, called Super Collider. And this basically makes it portable. So we have a pattern engine that takes care of, well, reading some kind of syntax and transforming it into these messages that then get sent to the sound engine to actually make the sound. And the final architecture looks something like this. So we have some patterns like bass drum and hi-hat. So the pattern defines what we want to play, the scheduler takes care of when we want to play it, and then Super Collider takes care of making the actual sound. So PHP is not making the sound, but, well, in a way, without PHP, we wouldn't hear it. So, if any of you know a bit about music notation, then you usually have bars. Like, you have bars with music, you have some notes in there, then you have some notes in the other bars. With this approach, which is also where the name Title Cycles comes from, we have what is called a cycle. So with this sound method, we have a bass drum, a snare, a hi-hat, and a snare. And this is one cycle. And we basically just keep on looping this one cycle. And everything that is placed in there gets distributed evenly within this one cycle. So the bass drum is at 0, the snare is at 0.25, the hi-hat is at 0.5, and then the snare is at 0.75 at the end. So by changing how many cycles we want to loop per second, we can change how, basically the tempo of our songs. The default is around 0.5 cycles per second, which is roughly 120 BPM. Now, what does the sound method actually do? Like, what would it return if we would add a DD on top of it? It basically returns a collection of events, and the main thing it does is calculate when a sound should be played. So in here we have 4 events, and we know the bass drum should be at 0, the snare at 0.25, and so on. This notation that I showed you is quite powerful. I took a lot of inspiration from Strudel with my helpful friend Claude. And we converted a bunch of the notations. So for example, you can group nodes, you can alternate between nodes, which is really cool. I'll show you that later. You can speed things up, you can slow them down, the exclamation mark to repeat certain patterns, you can change which sample you want to play, the rest silent stuff, and you can stack different rhythms on top to create polyphony. What's also really cool is that we can visualize this stuff. So the way this works is we play the sound here, so let's go again with our 4 on the floor bass drum. And we can visualize this because we send this to PHP via WebSockets, and our WebSocket server in PHP sends it back to the client, which is basically this view application. And in here we can see the events coming in real time. So we're right now at cycle 360. That's when I started this, basically. All right. And then what I, as some kind of music nerd, find really interesting and fun is that we can create interesting sounding patterns. So for example, we could add a clap on top of this, but we distribute it by 3. It sounds weird for a second, but at some point it lines up and clicks, and I don't know, I just find this really fun, and it's so easy to play with that. Besides just playing like drum patterns, we can also actually play notes. So if we want to play an actual note, the sound becomes basically the instrument. So this would be a supersaw. I don't really know why a lot of these instruments are prefixed with super. They don't sound that super to me, but I don't know why. And then you define the note you want to play. So this would be the note C on the second octave. That's why it's called C2. Then we go 1 octave up for C3, and so on with C4 and C5. And then if we play this, it sounds kind of like that. And then you can change this, for example, to the super piano. It doesn't sound super, trust me. It's kind of ugly, but it works. Or, you know, like a sine wave, if you want to do stuff like that. So let's change this to the supersaw, and let's create a little arpeggio. So we go back down. And as we added more notes, we try to fit them into this one cycle so it automatically speeds up. And we can go a bit crazier in here and say like, okay, we want to make this 4 times faster. Oh, yep. And all of this goes through PHP back to the browser with WebSocket, so kind of cool. There are a bunch of transformations that we can do in this syntax language. So as I showed you, you can speed things up, make things like twice as fast or even faster, slow things down, reverse stuff, a bunch of more cool things that you can add in here. Now, how does this transformation modify the returning collection? So if we have something like a bass drum and a snare, we have these 2 events in our collection. If we would say that we want to have it twice as fast, well, the pattern engine basically recognizes that and now knows, well, we need to place 4 events in that one cycle, so it just repeats them. And we can also add effects to this. So for example, we can modify the gain, which is basically the volume. And then the gain is basically just a parameter that gets added to these collections and will then be sent to SuperCollider, and then SuperCollider knows, okay, with the gain, I need to make things louder or quieter. Okay, so that's about the syntax and how we go from whatever we have as these patterns to an actual event. But there's a problem, because PHP itself is not really meant to do something like that. Because usually we use PHP in a request-response kind of lifecycle way, and not in this, well, never-ending loop, which we kind of needed now for doing this with music. So the solution to that is using React PHP. And quick show of hands, how many of you have used React PHP? Okay, how many of you have used Laravel Reverb? So you have all used React PHP, because React PHP is used under the hood for Reverb. And React PHP essentially, like boiled down to the core, is just a while loop, a while true loop that always loops through your code. And what's cool about it is it tries to get out of your way as much as possible so that your CPU can do a lot of things at the same time without blocking it. So what we do in here is, let's say we have something like bass drum, hi-hat, bass drum. And it's this never-ending loop. The cycles always increment. So what we need to do is, and it usually takes like every 20 milliseconds. Of course, this is way slower because otherwise you get like epileptic shock. And so every tick, we basically check which events do we need to play right now. So are there any events that need to be played now? If there are, we're going to fetch them, turn them into this open sound control format, and then send them over. So you can kind of think of this as Horizon, but instead of sending jobs, we're sending beats. And the actual format of these open sound control messages that we send is pretty similar to what we had in these events. So you can kind of think of that as some kind of route. So this dirt play is basically the name of the route where we want to send things to. And then the payload is basically the event. So the sound would be the bass drum. We want to tell it when it needs to play and how long it needs to play, as well as stuff like gain or filters or any kind of stuff like that. And the way we send this with React PHP is by using a data grain package that allows us to send things via UDP, which is amazing for that because it's super fast. We can just fire things off and don't need to wait for an actual response. And well, this is basically coming from Super Collider. So Super Collider opens up a port, we can connect to it and then send these messages to make it play sounds and do stuff. Okay, but now this introduced another problem. So imagine that we have an array, and the first entry is the bass drum, the second one is the snare. And we want it to play at the exact same time. So we loop over the array, take the bass drum, send it to Super Collider. Now we take the second item, send it to Super Collider, but maybe the first one was already played. So it kind of sounds off. Even if it's just off a little, it sounds like you're listening to a drunk drummer or something like that. So how we fix this? Well, we don't look at the events that we need to send now. We look at the events that we need to send in the future. So we're using a look-ahead window to actually see which events will be played in the future, because we know what will be played in the future because we can calculate it. And once we do that, we basically queue them up front. So this way we make sure that Super Collider knows exactly what will be played at the exact time, and we don't have this weird, like, glitchy sound. Again, this introduced another problem that we had to solve. So let's say we have this kind of pattern. The first look-ahead window saw that there are 5 events. Bass drum, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat, bass drum, whatever. Those 5 events get sent to Super Collider. They will be played at some point. Now, 20 milliseconds later, we check again, a bit further in the future. But as you can see, 3 events are already queued, so we don't want to send them again. So what we actually only want to send are the 2 events that we haven't sent yet. So we need to come up with some kind of event deduplication. So we create an event ID from this bass drum sound, basically, based on when it needs to be played, like the start point and the end point, and then, well, whatever information is still in that pattern, like the volume or what kind of effect. Whatever we can use to make it unique. So then when we schedule an event, we get the ID, check if it is already scheduled. If it is, we just ignore it. If it's not, we mark it as scheduled, which basically just puts it into a huge array, and then queue this open sound control message. If we do this every 20 milliseconds, the array where we store these event IDs is growing really fast. So we have to clean that up. To do this, we basically just look back in time, and all the events that are older than 2 seconds will be removed from the array and are gone. So, how does this fit in Laravel? The way it's packaged up is basically just a artisan command. So all I have to do in my terminal is run PHP artisan title serve, and this spins up this React PHP loop. It starts the WebSocket server, and then it connects to Super Collider. And if you haven't used React PHP, using it in combination with Laravel is really cool and easy. So it provides a loop interface, which takes care of like this never-ending loop. You can just bind it to the service container and then use it in all the places throughout your application where you need it. So for example, in the artisan command. Then the heartbeat, this 20 millisecond tick, we just take the loop once again out of the container, and React PHP allows us to add periodic timers. So this is in JavaScript. So every 20 milliseconds, we want to perform the tick PHP method, which then, well, queries the events that need to be played and so on. And then for the events itself, well, we're just going to add another timer that makes sure that when we actually need to play this sound, it gets played. Okay, so a lot of code. Now time for some more sound. Something that was really interesting was how to build in some effects. Like I said, Super Collider, this program already has a bunch of effects in them, but not one that I really wanted to add. So this is just a bass sound. It's really simple. And then we want to add a bass drum on top of that. It's okay, but what I would like the bars are the volume of each sound, but I would like to reduce the volume of the bass whenever the bass drum kicks in. So to do this, we can make use of something called ducking, or if you are into music, it's kind of like sidechaining, if that gives you any idea. So the only thing that changed in these calls is now our bass drum, or bass, has this new method on it called orbit. So this, it still sounds the exact same thing, but we tell it that it's now running on channel 3. And now our bass drum is told to duck channel 3. So it now sounds like that, which gives it this nice little wavy sound. So every time the bass drum hits, we're going to reduce the volume of our bass. And all of that is done in PHP. So here you can see how the gain basically gets changed in real time via PHP whenever an event comes in. We can do even more fun stuff with this ducking. So once again, we have our bass. And we can change the duck attack. So this means that we reduce the volume, but the duck attack is the time it takes for the volume to go up back to the normal value. And by changing that, we get this even better sounding wavy kind of sound. I don't know. I think it just sounds pretty cool. Yep, thank you. And here you see again how this is done in PHP and how the stuff gets sent in real time back to the browser. All right, so I thought it would be fun to just build up a song with you. A little disclaimer, this song is, I was busy building this library, so I didn't compose my own song. So this is taken from Switch Angel. You can listen to it on Spotify if you want. But we're going to do it live here with a little twist. So we are going to start with like a 4 on the floor bass drum. Okay, that sounds a bit better than the other one. And then we want a sawtooth wave. And we're going to play some notes. And we want this to be in the scale of G minor. So, at first I showed you when we want to play notes that we have to actually write down the notes, like C, D, whatever. But we can also use numbers, which allows us to do some cool stuff. So what this means is, this is the first note, basically, on this scale. So this would be a G. If I would change this to D, it would be a D, and so on. And even if you don't know anything about scales, it basically defines a certain rhythm and flow of notes, so we can always make sure that it sounds kind of good. So if we play this now, okay, now we're going to reduce that, so we're going to transpose this 1 octave. So 1 octave has 12 notes, we're going to reduce that. Okay, that's kind of cool. Now we can add some more effects to this. So this is called a low-pass filter, and you can kind of think of that as the energy of the sound. So if I play this, you don't hear hear that much of a difference, but if I reduce that some more, kind of cool, and then we can build up on that. But let's increase this some more, and then let's add a bass. So for the bass, we're going to use the super saw. We're just going to make a simple bass with G notes, and because it's a bass, it needs to be even lower, like that. Okay, I think you can hear the bass. Cool. Alright, and then we're going to duck our leads. Give it this nice wobbly sound. Okay, and then we can change the duck depth, which is basically the amount of how much we want to actually lower the sound. So it doesn't go quiet entirely. Okay, that's pretty cool. And now, because we have these numbers as notes, we can do some fancy stuff and actually go and add notes on top of them, because it's just numbers. So if we do this, we got a nice progression. Okay, and now we're going to use that progression for our bass. Okay, and now we can use a pattern within the pattern, like this. So what this does is, the first time we play this cycle, it's going to play a 5 and a 6, and the next time it's going to go down to the 3 and the 4. So you'll hear that in a second. Alright? And now I have this cool sample called Vishal. Vishal needs more volume. Okay. Alright, we need way more. Okay, cool. Use that there. Here's the bass. This is like a breakdown, I guess. Okay. You can add like another sound. The hi-hat on top. Piano bass. Okay, we got it. Okay, so I don't know a good way to end this, to be honest, because it just stops abruptly. But I guess we can just lower the energy here, and then take this away as well, like that. So pretty cool. And yeah, all of this is done with PHP. So, yep, give it up for PHP. So that's, you can join me on stage if you want. So that's all that I have. Now, I know you're not going back to work and create music with PHP. I mean, if you do, well, ping me, let me know, it'd be cool. But I think there are still some things you can take away from my talk, at least I hope. One thing is, PHP can do real-time stuff. So PHP really can handle things like music, precision, with a lot of stuff going on, all in real time, while even streaming things back to the browser and then rendering it. And the other, which I think is even more important, is just build weird stuff, right? AI makes this easier than ever to just whatever you want to experiment with and try out, give it to an AI and let it build it, because it's just fun. Like, we're still doing this, or at least I'm doing it for fun. Like, programming is like a huge hobby of mine. So yeah, I hope you found this at least funny or useful. Feel free to definitely check out Switch Angel. She's brilliant. And there's also DJ Dave, another streamer, and she's also amazing. So check both of them out if you are into this. Thank you.
Yep. I've seen like everyone were enjoying with beats and music and like up and down, even in the backstage as well. So as always, Marshall, you are known for giving great talks on stage, which
Thank you.
always energize people so they feel alive. So can you please come on the right
Sure,
side?
of course.
So for you, actually, I didn't plan anything specific. I planned a mix of questions.
All right.
So either might be fill in the blanks, either you might
All right.
think of future, and either might be yes or no.
Go for it.
All right. So are you ready for the? I think this is the last and final rapid fire of
Okay.
Laracon India 2026. So are you guys ready as well? The last one. Wow, you see this energy?
Yeah. Well,
It came from your music. Okay, let's go. One habit that changed. One habit that changed everything for me was.
Oof, one habit. I'm really bad at habits. And I'm worse than at changing them.
Something might be like which you feel like you can transform. Like,
I don't know.
with your mindset, food, sleep, something, anything, which you feel that, or you are just the way you are.
I think I'm really bad at changing. Maybe I should.
Done. The next.
Yeah.
The hardest part of staying consistent for so many years is.
Oh, well, not changing our patterns, I guess. Not changing our habits. No, I think it's just going every day to work and being consistent. It's just the hardest part.
So I think like
Just
whatever
doing
you are
it.
doing, just doing it. Yeah.
That is
Great.
the hard part.
Next. The thing I underestimated the most when I started was in your journey. That Marshall, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I underestimated so many things. Like, well, I think one is how important the community is. Like, I had to learn that, and that was what drew me into Laravel in the first place. Like, I did a bunch of open source before, but that was really just on my own. It didn't really feel the same vibe. So yeah, the community, I guess.
Great. Next. Music mode Marshall or building mode Marshall?
Well, both, I guess.
But pick one. But I think both.
Well, if I have to pick one, it would be builder mode.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Next. Live demos or recorded
Oh,
videos?
live demos.
Next. If your home had a soundtrack, what genre would it be? I know maybe I have some sense.
Oh well, like deathcore. so something metal.
Yeah.
It
heavy
has
metal.
nothing to say about my home, but I just like aggressive music, I guess.
Yeah. Next. Strict planner or go with the flow?
No, go with the flow.
Next. Big city energy or quiet town comfort?
I live in a quiet town, but I enjoy the big city energy. I would go for big city energy. Yeah.
Okay, great. Next. Performance optimization or developer experience?
Developer experience.
Next. Open source freedom or enterprise structure?
Oh, open source freedom. Yeah.
Bugs or wrong notes?
Bugs.
After Laracon, race today or build something inspired?
First rest, then build.
Indian crowd energy or
Oh
European
no!
crowd
Oh, of course, Indian crowd energy. Like, yeah.
Laracon India or Laracon Europe?
Laracon India.
Wow!
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Nuno to ask the same question. in Laracon
Yeah.
Europe. All right.
All right, cool.
Done then, Marshall. Thank you for being part
Thank
of
you for
Laracon
having
India.
me.
If you are up for the last rapid fire, but you have to give an answer in 1 second, then we can do it.
Sure.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah. Well, if I can make
Check.
it.
I made some reserve backup as well. Let me see if it is there or not. Okay.
All right.
So immediate answers. All right.
Yeah.
Code first, music first.
Music first.
Keyboard or guitar.
Guitar.
Silence or background noise while creating.
Background noise.
Planning a composition or improvising live.
Improvising.
Fixing bugs or fixing a wrong note.
Fixing bugs.
Structured rhythm or free flow.
Free flow.
Perfect sound or raw sound.
Raw sound.
Late night creativity or morning inspiration.
Late night.
Solo creation or creating with others.
Solo.
Coffee or clubmate.
Coffee.
Electronic music or natural music.
Electronic music.
Tech conferences or music festivals.
Oh, that's a tough one. Festivals. Music festivals.
Okay. German winters or Germany summers.
Both kind of
Summers.
suck, but German summers are better.
Laracon India or live music on stage?
Laracon India.
Wow, so we won against your music.
Well, yeah.
All right, thank you, Marcel,
Thank
for
you.
once again for being part of Laracon India. The last speaker,
Thank you.
Marcel. Marcel.